So we all know the hierarchy when it comes to the relationship between the NBA and China. You have China, who is Daddy China, and then you have the Chinese shoe company and apparel company, aka Nike, and then you have the Chinese Basketball Association called the NBA in America that sells the Chinese goods from Nike, right? And the owners of these NBA teams are now apparently Chinese politicians, or at the very least, that's what Mark Cuban sounded like in this interview with Megyn Kelly when she pressed him on the NBA's relationship with China. But before we get into that, my name is Greg Foreman and you're watching a Black Conservative Perspective. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black Conservative Perspective, aka a liberal's worst nightmare. You can also follow me on Twitter at GForemanBCP. Let's get it. All right, guys. So watch this interview between Chinese politician Mark Cuban, or should I say Mark's Cuban, and Megyn Kelly, where she presses him on the NBA's relationship with China.
So you tell me whether the NBA needs to get more vocal in condemning what we're now seeing there, which is an ethnic cleansing of a minority Muslim group known as the Uyghurs. 1 million or more are being held against their will right now, men, women, and children facing torture, forced labor, physical and sex abuse, coercive population control, forced abortion, forced sterilizations. And the question remains, why won't you and the NBA explicitly condemn that?
So first, we pay attention. I personally, okay, let's just talk about me. I personally put a priority on domestic issues, right? When it comes to human rights, I'm against all human rights violations around the world. China,
including the ones in China?
China is not the only country with human rights violations.
Right, but including the ones in China, you're against their human rights violations?
I'm against all human rights violations.
Including China, Mark?
Yes, including China. Any human rights violations anywhere are wrong. Okay?
Okay.
Now, what do we do about them? That's the problem, right? So the first thing you do, you say, okay, there's people from China trying to escape that. There's people from Turkey. There's people from Africa, all trying to escape and receive asylum here in the United States. Would you agree with them? Would you agree with that?
Look, according to you...
I'm asking a question. Would you agree that the question, there are people who are trying to escape human rights violations around the world and gain asylum as refugees here in the United States of America?
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Yes, that's true.
Okay. Would you agree that it's probably a good idea that we should allow more of them to come so they can escape these human rights issues?
You're not going to put this back on me. This is about
I'm not putting anything on you. I'm just
NBA,
asking a question. I'm just asking you a question. No, we're talking about human rights violations.
No, I'm explaining to my audience that what's happening now is you're dodging because you're uncomfortable because the NBA will not condemn China and its
I just told you I'm against human rights violations everywhere, including China.
Well, let's get specific. Do you condemn the genocide that's going on right now in China toward the Uyghurs?
I condemn all human rights violations.
Why can't you be specific?
Yes, because the way proclamations work in this country, the minute you say them anywhere, you're going to use this as a headline. Cuban says this, this, and this.
What's wrong with that headline? Cuban condemns ethnic cleansing in China.
Because I got to deal with the troll bots then. I got to deal with the troll bots. Now, what's more important to ask is what actions that I think are important to deal with these issues. You want proclamations, but you're not, when I try to talk about actions, you ignore them and say I'm evading the question.
I have been told silence is violence. And my question for you is,
what I'm telling you
why
is
have you been so silent
action is change.
This?
I'm telling you action is change.
So
and I'm
what
telling
are you doing
you
about this?
So I just tried to explain it to you, right? I've been involved trying to increase the number of slots available for asylum seekers here in the United States. Right now, if someone were to escape any country that has human rights violations and get to this country, they can't get a job.
Come on.
You know why?
That's not a response to what's happening in China.
Bullshit,
why would you take why would the NBA take $500 million plus from a country that is engaging in ethnic cleansing?
So basically you're saying that nobody should do business with China ever.
Why don't you just answer my question?
No, Megyn, I'm just trying to get to the root of it. So
why would the NBA do that?
You are the one who said, they are a customer. They are a customer of ours. And guess what, Megyn? I'm okay with doing business with China. You know, I wish I could solve all the world's problems, Megyn. I'm sure you do too, but we can't. And so we have to pick our battles. And while you'd like to get proclamations so you can create a clip that says, look what I got Mark to say, you don't want to deal with the actual action items. You might think silence is violence, but action gets change, right? And so when I start to talk about creating asylum,
I mean,
you wouldn't let me say it. You stopped me every single time and said I was changing the subject.
Providing for asylum for those seeking it does absolutely nothing to help the Uyghurs.
No. Okay,
Zero.
So first of all, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about because there are people. You know how many people are on the waiting list for visas and asylum in China right now trying to get here but can't? More than 200,000. And you know how I know that? Because it's not a published figure. Because I went to the State Department and contributed the resources to figure it out and find out what's going on. Because when people are able to get out, we don't give them a chance to come here. Okay, and when they are able to get here, we don't give them a chance to work because they're not allowed to work. And so when they get here, and so they go into the underground economy. So all these people crying for human rights, helping the people, when we find a way to help them, we stop them. We don't help them.
How is it that the NBA can lecture America on so-called racism when we are the freest country in the world, but you turn a blind eye to China? Now, Megyn Kelly did a good job in this interview. She did a great job because, like I said before, Mark Cuban turned into a Chinese politician. And I know why he turned into a Chinese politician, because China makes up about 10% of the NBA's international revenue. That's about between $400 and $500 million, which is what they've lost since the Chinese stopped airing their games in China after Daryl Morey made that tweet about Hong Kong. Now, China did decide to air, I think, Game 5 of the finals, and some other games after that. So they're trying to mend the relationship with China right now. Even though he kept saying, I condemn human rights abuses in China, he wouldn't say specifically what it is. And the reason why is because, I don't know if you guys know, but the NBA had academies in China where the top Chinese players will be exposed to coaching by top level NBA level coaches and other types of NBA talent. Now, there was not direct oversight from the NBA because, of course, it's China. They run everything over there, right? And apparently there are reports that came out of these camps in which there were coaches that were throwing the ball at players' heads and kicking the players in the stomachs. I mean, we're talking about 13, 14-year-old players. I mean, we're talking about grown men abusing Chinese basketball players at NBA camps in China. This is what was happening, guys. Now, the NBA quietly pulled out those camps, but they wouldn't specify why. They wouldn't say why because they didn't want to upset Daddy China. So the NBA knows what's going on, but see, they want to protect that $400 to $500 million a year, and they're gonna do everything they can to do it. Now they can play around the bushes. They can say, this, that, and the other, like that's acceptable. But when something like Daryl Morey happens, where you point out something specific, China cracked that whip on the NBA. That's what they did, and they took all the games off TV, and they lost over $400 to $500 million because of that. And that's why Mark Cuban didn't want to get specific about it. And that's why he got so testy about it, because he knows that they're trying to mend a relationship with China. And if he goes and says something specific about what they're doing, it's done. It's a wrap. They're going to cut him off again. Megyn Kelly did a great job of making Mark essentially say something that, hey, he may have to deal with from Daddy China in the future. So let's break it down. The first thing that Mark tried to say is that, well, I'm particularly concerned about domestic issues. And again, we're not letting you get away with that, Mark. That's not a sufficient answer. Because you have the same obligation to be for human rights and social justice in China the same way you do here in America. No, you're not in a position where you can just be like, nah, we just care about what's going on in the U.S. No, because it's a double-edged sword, Mark. If you're going to lecture us on Black Lives Matter, if you're going to put Black Lives Matter all over the court, you're going to put all these social justice messages on the court and ram it down my throats, you damn sure better have Uyghur Lives Matter on the courts in China. You better have it, because otherwise, yeah, we're going to have something to say. We are your market too, Mark. You make money off of us too, Mark. And that's what the NBA tends to forget. We are your bread and butter. Now, if you want to become a full-on Chinese company, be my guest. But we will not sit here and allow you to ram down garbage down our throats and then turn around and turn the other cheek to what China's doing. And then you have your same constituency, the same people that love watching the NBA and is praising the NBA are doing the same thing, not saying anything about China, and in some aspects praising China on things. No, we're not going to stand for it, man. We're not going to stay. You're not going to get away with that. So yeah, this is why Mark got upset in this interview. That's why he got testy and started mansplaining, as the liberals would call it, to Megyn Kelly about how, oh, you know, we are trying to help. We are doing something about it. He tried to turn it back around on her and be like, you know, I'm trying to bring the refugees in that do escape. Would you support bringing refugees in? It ain't about that, Mark. You're doing direct business with China, Mark. Megyn Kelly is not doing direct business with China. So she ain't got nothing to do with that. That's an irrelevant question. You're dodging. You know, he asked this question about, well, you know, every country commits human rights abuses. Should we just not do business with China? I personally don't really have a problem with the NBA doing business with China. I get it. We companies all across the globe do business with sketchy countries. That's just how business works. That's capitalism. I'm never gonna be against capitalism. But don't sit here and try to lecture me and try to paint me as a bad person because I don't support Black Lives Matter over here in the country that is your main paycheck. Don't do that. Because if you're gonna do that here, you need to make sure you're doing that there. And if you're not doing it there, then you don't need to be doing it here. Which is probably why the NBA is rolling back all the social justice stuff next year and they're getting rid of it. They're getting rid of it because they know it's costing them money and it's incompatible with their relationship with China. It just is. Americans are too smart. We are too smart. I respect Mark Cuban as a businessman, but man, he acted like a Chinese politician in this interview. I just wish these sports leagues and these sports teams stop trying to act like they're so morally superior to everybody and stop trying to lecture people on what's right and what's wrong. Get out of the business of trying to lecture people on right or wrong. We just want to see sports. We're not here to hear your politics and what you think about race relations in America. We don't care. Stop lecturing us on social justice and we'll probably stop lecturing you on China. And then you ain't got to deal with these questions. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.